What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another gaming channel. My name is AJ Gels. How y'all doing? We are back once more with the weekly show. This is episode 134. If you're new to this program, basically what I do, I gather gaming news that interests me or that anybody sends in to me via Twitter or comments in any of the YouTube videos, anything like that. And I sit here, we read articles, I give my takes. Sometimes we watch videos when we have them. Don't have any this week. It's all articles this week. And if the title of the video didn't tell you enough, just this headline, I have no flipping clue what Sony's doing. But before we get into that, I do have a slight announcement. I was supposed to go home yesterday for my Thanksgiving break, but I kind of fell asleep for way too long and ended up staying at my apartment for an extra day. But either way, I'm going to be going back home, so that means I'm going to be hopefully with the better internet that's at my house and not my apartment, or my home, whatever the hell you want to call it. Hopefully I can stream. If I might do one Sunday, or I guess that would be tomorrow. I'll do a stream if it actually works well. Who the hell knows? I might stream every day until I end up coming back next Saturday. But actually, that streaming stuff, that's not actually the important stuff I wanted to talk about. I actually did want to talk about next week's show. I haven't fully decided on what I'm going to do for next week's show, with this week being Thanksgiving. I know, Samori Roden, you are a weekly viewer of this. I know you're Canadian. It's not your Thanksgiving, but it is my Thanksgiving. Had to throw that Canadian dig in there just for the sheer hell of it. It's all good. We're all friends here. But no, it is my Thanksgiving, so I'm not sure if we're going to be doing a weekly show next week. It all comes down to what news is dropped and all that. So if there's something interesting enough to talk about, we'll do one Saturday, Sunday, because I have a work thing on Saturday, so I do kind of have to come back. I'm doing Black Friday with my mom like I always do. Yes, I hang out with my mom, throw the jabs. I'm doing Black Friday, and then I have a work thing on Saturday. So, probably it'll be late Saturday, midday Sunday, if we do a show next week. But that's all up in the air. So if there isn't a show next week, it's not that I forgot or anything. It's just with the holiday, we're taking a break. I've taken a few breaks, from the show, and I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to really get into a rhythm. Because I always feel like as soon as I take a week off, it really becomes easy to take other weeks off, but it's because of the holiday. There we go. I've rambled on too much. Let's actually get into the news for this week. And the first article we have is an article from Game Informer written by Imran Khan. Sony Interactive Entertainment is not attending E3 in 2019, and I cannot figure this out. I mean, ever since I saw this, Samori Roden, actually, dude, you sent me this on Twitter. I somehow missed this news when it first dropped, and I have no freaking clue what they're doing here. I cannot figure this out. Mostly because I don't see how they gain from this. Look, I kind of understand them not doing PSX here in the U.S. In next, I guess it would be next month, actually, would be when PSX would be, but I can kind of understand that one, them kind of saying, look, we don't have any massive announcements, it's just going to spend money, we'd rather just kind of wait and just work on our existing titles. Okay, I get that, sure, but E3 to me is that big event. I think for a lot of people it is. I think Game Informer's take, which usually I don't read, but we'll read that at the end, because I think they have an interesting take on this, and their idea of E3, but This is really, again, just odd to me. I can't see the strategy here. I mean, sure, maybe they don't think that maybe we don't have to compete with Microsoft. In my opinion, Microsoft's flubbed the last two. I think Microsoft puts way too much focus on the other studios within Microsoft and the other this, that, the other thing. I don't get it all the time. But that's, I don't know. I don't think I will get it, but whatever. Let's hop into this article, and let's see. The history of the Electronic Entertainment Expo is as long as it is circuitous. I have a fairly decent vocabulary. I think that's meaning it's like I have no fucking clue. The annual event has traditionally brought the entire gaming industry together as developers and publishers fight for attention, both on and off the show floor, through announcements, trailers, and pomp and circumstance. The displays of grandeur have ebbed and flowed over the course of E3's soon-to-be 25-year history, with different companies occasionally reconsidering the extent of their involvement in the show. Now, one of the biggest players, Sony, has decided that PlayStation will not be attending E3 in 2019. And I quote, "As the industry evolves, Sony Interactive Entertainment continues to look for inventive opportunities to engage the community," end quote, the company told Game Informer in a statement. And I quote again, "The PlayStation fans mean the world to us, and we always want to innovate, think differently, and experiment with new ways to delight gamers. As a result, we have decided not to participate in E3 in 2019. We are exploring new and familiar ways to engage our community in 2019 and can't wait to share our plans with you," end quote. Look, in my opinion, I think this is a bad move. Maybe this is because I love E3 and I love, just having everyone there, all these press conferences and all these trailers and all these news drops or whatever in one place. Maybe it's because I'm so invested and so tied to E3, or not, like through any actual reasons, just tied through, just the pageantry of E3 that's what I'm used to. But I mean, the only other thing I can think of them doing is like a PSX style thing, unless they're going to do a bunch of like small events, like they're going to go on tour and, you can bring a bunch of people in to play demos and whatnot. Kind of like, I think a few articles have mentioned, like EA Play, which I think is a good comparison to this, but I can't think of what these new and innovative ways that they're going to do this are, because I have a feeling it's just going to be a take on something that we've already seen in the past from other developers. I think the best way to do it is just do sizzle reels and trailers and live gameplay demonstrations on the floor at E3. I think that's on, and again, maybe I'm biased, but I think that is just the go. There's a reason it's the go-to. And I just think it's a weird move on Sony's part to say, we're not going to do that after canceling PSX. I guess not canceling, but announcing that they're not doing a PSX. It seems like Sony's almost kind of like collapsing into itself, or not collapsing in the company's going to go under, but in just the details they're sharing with us. Sony's just really keeping everything so tight to the chest. It's really weird to me. Let's see here. When asked if Sony would push the event off-site, similar to how Electronic Arts provides a show adjacent to E3, PlayStation Senior Vice President of Communication, Jennifer Clark, elaborated further saying, and I quote, "We will not activate or..." Okay, I don't know why activate is there. "Not activate or hold a press conference around E3, end quote." I still think that's... Unless, maybe they're going to go to like a Nintendo Direct style. I guess that could work. You know what? I think if they're going to do anything, I would hope that they'd go to a Nintendo Direct style. If not a traditional E3, I would hope that they'd go to it like a Nintendo Direct kind of thing. But that's about all I can think of that I think is a good plan. And again, I'm not the professional. I'm just some punk in an apartment. But that's just my take on that. It just seems weird to me. Sony's withdrawal from E3 likely comes as a disappointment to fans, me, that look forward to the company's stage show as a centerpiece for the expo as a whole. From huge announcements like Spider-Man Horizon Zero Dawn to tense on-stage demos like The Last of Us, Sony has always brought a certain flair to the show. The press conference battle between Microsoft and Sony, especially once Nintendo changed to a video format, is often the talk of E3. And in my opinion, as Sony has just spanked Microsoft the last couple of years. The announcement comes after Sony declined to hold their annual fan event called PlayStation Experience, or PSX, this year, which usually takes place in the first 2 weeks of December. Sony Interactive Entertainment chairman Sean Layden said at the time that there simply was not enough to show this year, a problem that fans also pointed out during the previous year's more low-key events. Yeah, I'd say that. I think PSX last year, to me, was kind of boring. I did a couple of the press conferences or their stage conferences or whatever, but it was like, ooh, here's Ghost of Tsushima, but we talked about how we made the trailer. Here's The Last of Us Part 2, but we're just going to talk with Druckmann and some of the cast, but we're really not going to talk about the game necessarily. It's all these broad concept questions that they're going to give such a broad answer. It could literally mean anything, too, which I think is fair enough to say that about last year's PSX. And honestly, last year's E3, or this year's E3, I guess it is, in my opinion, was not the best. I think, as I described it to people, it was a solid show. It was a solid show without many big surprises. There was a lot of updates. Or at least that's what I got at E3 this year. Let's see here. The official statement suggests that Sony plans to engage community in other events. Does this mean Sony will be reviving the currently shuttered PlayStation experience? And I quote, "We are looking at events as a whole and how we can speak more to our fans and continue to wow them. The timing of PSX and E3 didn't allow for that," Clark replied. "But lots of exciting things to come, and we hope to share shortly. Some of our biggest games will have key milestones next year, so we will work hard to blow those up," end quote. And I think they're talking Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us Part 2, hopefully Kojima's game Death Stranding. Let's see here. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Last of Us Part 2 we get by the end of next year. Same with Ghost of Tsushima. I think I'd say that Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima both come out next year. And then Kojima's game, I say 2020 or late 2020 or sometime in 2021. Maybe I'm putting a little too much, maybe I'm overthinking how far that game is along in development. But I think those are the three big projects that Sony's going to really be talking about. And again, maybe they're going to do like a video, like PSX style thing when we have more info on each of those games, and maybe do like 30 minutes just solid on here's The Last of Us, or here's Death Stranding, or here's Ghost of Tsushima. Stuff like that. I don't know. I still like the idea of doing a more Nintendo Direct styled sort of here. Every couple months we're going to put out a video to give you guys an update on what the studios are doing. If anything, I think that if you're not going to do like an E3 or something like Nintendo's basically said we're not going to do, I think a Nintendo Direct style of like video release, I think that's your next best bet. Where were we? The Entertainment Software Association, or ESA, has hosted E3 since its inception in 1995. The trade association is made up of video game industry's largest and most notable publishers, including Sony Interactive Entertainment, and has recently made moves to transition E3 from less of an industry event to a fan-inclusive one. We reached out to ESA about Sony's announcement, and we're informed they plan to release a statement later today. What do you think about Sony pulling away from E3 in 2019? Change your view of the show. Let us know in the comments. Andy McNamara, there we go, provided additional reporting for this article. Now, their take, like I said, I thought was fairly interesting. This news will escalate the feeling among many that E3 has simply lessened in importance in recent years. Of course, that remains to be seen in the show. Since the show has been evolving into a more consumer-focused event, Sony could take this opportunity to build a fan expo like BlizzCon. I think that's what they're trying to do with PSX, and I don't think it ever became that, which takes place when the timing is right for Sony, or the platform holder could go to the more direct route like Nintendo, leveraging its own social channels to promote its products globally. The other side of that argument is that E3 is when the industry has the world's attention, and Sony could be missing out on that opportunity. See, I think right there at that bottom, I think that's the risk reward here, right? That they're saying we're going to do something totally different, but I think they're losing that giant public eye of when everyone's watching what's coming out in the gaming world, and I think Sony not being a part of that conversation is just an odd decision. Again, Sony's been just killing it this generation, so I want to see what they're going to come up with, but all in all, I think this is an odd decision, and I really hope if they do I really hope that they go more the Nintendo Direct style. I think if I'm not going to get a Sony E3, that Nintendo Direct thing I think is the next best thing, and I'd like to see that. So, all right, well there's my takes on that. Let's move on to the next article. All right, guys. Well, moving on as my cat climbs up the back of my chair and freaks the ever-living hell out of me. I guess kind of keeping on some PlayStation news, PUBG has officially been announced for PlayStation 4. I believe we talked about this last week, that this was kind of being teased, and the news officially dropped. I mean, this makes sense for is it Blue Point or Blue Hole? I always forget the developer. I can't find a name here. I always get that wrong for some reason. I can never remember if it's a Blue Point or Blue Hole. Either way, not a surprise move from the developer. I think that, with them basically just losing the Fortnite, I think this is a good move. Spread to more platforms. I think the PlayStation 4 is a lot more popular than the Xbox. So I think this is just a smart business move, all in all. All right, either way, PUBG officially announced for PlayStation 4, Adam Bankhurst. IGN, PlayerUnknown's Battleground has officially been announced for PlayStation 4 and will be released on December 7th, 2018. Announced on the PlayStation blog, PUBG will include all major features, and I quote, like custom matches, ranked system, event mode, trophies, end quote, and will launch with 3 maps. Erangel, Miramar, and Sanhok with the, and I quote, highly anticipated show-themed map, end quote, arriving this winter. PUBG will be available in 4 editions, which are as follows: Disc Edition, $30 US, base game, Looters Digital Edition, $30 US. Nothing like a nice, cool glass of milk. Survivors Digital Edition includes base game, Vikendi Event Pass, 2,300 G-Coin pack at 20,000 BP. Champions Digital Edition, $60 US, includes base game, Vikendi Event Pass, 6,000 G-Coin pack, and 20,000 BP. In addition, those who pre-order PUBG will receive a Nathan Drake desert outfit from the Uncharted series and Ellie's backpack from The Last of Us to use in-game, as well as a PUBG avatar and theme for your PS4. And there we go. There's the looks for them. There have been many rumors and listings that have hinted PUBG would finally be heading to PlayStation 4, and after launching on Xbox, game preview for Xbox One on December 12, 2017, and we now have official confirmation, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which has sold more than 18 million copies, recently, blah 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 blah, all that other stuff. Yeah, I'm not surprised to see this move. It's like I said at the beginning. I think this is a smart business plan, and I think this was. And when this was getting teased last week, I think it was fairly obvious, and we finally have the announcement. So it's pretty short article, but I wanted to show the culmination of last week. Moving on, kind of like the Sony story, we got an interesting news from Microsoft. Microsoft is working on a digital-only Xbox One system for a 2019 release. Article by Brian Shea of Game Informer. Based on a new report, Microsoft is working on an Xbox system without a disk drive for a 2019 release, according to the report from Thurrott. The digital-only device will carry a smaller price tag, possibly as low as $200, in an attempt to lower the cost of entry for the Xbox One family and systems. Okay, right off the bat, when I first heard about this, I was kind of going, meh, this is a weird decision to me. But now seeing that the $200 price tag, or possible price tag, much smarter decision. Because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so I'm gonna buy this thing, and I can't do. And I'm sitting here thinking, there's things that I can't like. I'm trying to put this. I'm trying to state this correctly. For somebody like me who has an Xbox, and I've been wanting to upgrade to probably an Xbox One S, One X. What words are hard? I want to upgrade my Xbox. I wouldn't do this because I have a lot of discs. But now seeing that this is for the, to lower the cost of entry, a lower price tag, I think this makes sense. And you know what? I think there's probably a market for this. Thurrott also states that Microsoft will introduce a disc-to-digital program, which will allow players to trade their discs into participating retailers in exchange for a digital version of the game. That's interesting. I like that idea. That's cool. I like that. I like that idea. So I'm kind of mulling that over in my head. I'm going a little bit back and forth on that. I mean, I kind of wish that we could get a disc copy of a game and then we could play it without the, you know, when we'd put the, since everything's application based, we take the disc, we can download the application, and then we could maybe play it without the disc, or if we, it's just weird that you have to give up your disc to then have the digital thing. I mean, I think you should just show proof of you know what I mean, for like have some sort of code system, or, although I guess how would you do that? I don't know. This just seems weird to me to give up my discs just to get a digital code for the same game, and it's just a big, to me that seems like a hassle. But this just adds to the, it adds to the reason for this, or backs up this, I'm trying to find the right words here. This backs up this concept, because I was thinking, because when I first was told about this, I was really thinking, I don't know how I feel about a digital only console, because I think Microsoft kind of tried to sell the Xbox One as that back when it first came out. You know, if anybody remembers that classic Sony ad where they said, I think it was Shuhei comes out and he's like, here's how you share a game on PS4. He takes the game box, hands it to his friend. That's it. You know, that just beast of an ad where they just basically were the schoolyard bully to Microsoft and just grabbed him by the back of the underpants and just gave him a massive wedgie. But you know what? I think if you're going to go with a digital only platform, or a digital only console, this disc to digital idea, I think that's a good plan. And then that's a good move. At E3 this year, Microsoft teased its next generation of hardware, which they originally reported was codenamed Scarlet. The discless Xbox One system is not a part of that family, according to this report. Microsoft originally launched Xbox One in 2013 with a bundled Kinect sensor at $499, which was $100 more than PlayStation 4 at launch. While many reasons have attributed to PlayStation 4 sales lead this generation, the price point has been often cited as a contributing factor. Not long after launch, Microsoft began selling Xbox Ones without the Kinect at a lower price before discontinuing the Kinect altogether in 2017, and it's because it sucked. Microsoft currently sells 4 Xbox One models, 3 different Xbox One S models, 500 gig 1TB and 2TB, and 1 Xbox One X model 1TB. The prices currently range from $299 for a 500 gig Xbox One S to $499 for the Xbox One X. We've reached out to Microsoft and will update as it comes. See, this is an interesting, like I said, this is an interesting like mid-generation console that I think the disc to digital thing. I'm trying to. It's not verify. It's not. I'm trying to think of the word. I think without the disc to digital thing, I think this is I don't think that there'd be a big market for this. But with that, I think more people would buy into it just because, I mean, it looks smaller. I mean, like my Xbox, like I have the original Xbox One, and the thing is just fucking huge. You know, so I think with that disc to digital, I think more people would buy like a $200 Xbox like this and then do that disc to digital thing and trade in their games. I think it's a good move on Microsoft's part. Now, I've been seeing a lot of people take this idea and run with it and go, well, is this what the next generation of consoles are going to be? Are they all going to be online only or digital only? And I sit here and go, I hope not. Or I hope if they do, that people are smart enough to not release games at $60. And I'll tell you why. And I'm sure there are going to be some people who tell me that I'm overthinking this, or that what I'm about to say is just absolutely ridiculous. But here's my thought process on that. And it's what I hear from people a lot. Maybe more casual gamers or what have you. And, they always ask me, he's like, man, $60 is still kind of steep for a game and all this, and when we talk about digital, or people, ask me, well, how come we can't pay less for digital? Because you don't have to pay for the, for the disc to be pressed. You don't have to pay for the shipping to the store, the actual cut that the store gets from the purchase, all that. So technically, what they're telling me, like a digital, Like, if I buy it directly from PlayStation on the PlayStation Store, it should be cheaper than if I went to a GameStop and bought it. And I look at them and go, I don't think they're wrong in that assumption. In the idea that the game should technically cost less. Yeah, because it would technically cost less to produce if you buy a digital-only version. I mean, I've heard arguments that games honestly should cost more than $60 to give more back to the companies that make them. I've heard arguments that they should cost less. I've heard arguments on both sides of this. On both sides of this, and I honestly can't decide which one I really agree with. I think that we should get rid of the idea of the industry standard of $60 that almost every company comes into. And I know that's not just Microsoft and PlayStation. That's if Ubisoft releases a game, it should be Ubisoft's decision how much to release the game for. It's like I said, it's the industry standard is $60. And I think a lot of times if you release a game for maybe $30, people think it's half as long or half as big as a $60 title, or it's like I said, I think we should get rid of that concept of the standard and let developers release their games for however much money that they want to release it for. Let the market sort everything out. I'm a big free market guy, obviously, from what I'm saying here. And if you followed this weird, twisted train of logic, good for you. And as you can see down in the bottom right, it's super early in the morning and I've barely slept. But back onto the main point that I was trying to make here. Why I think that dropping the price for games would be a good, or if you're going to have that standard, drop it to something like $40, kind of like what it was in the PS2 generation. And the reason I say this is because I think people are smart enough to go, wait a minute, you're telling me that you no longer have to press the discs, ship the discs, give the cuts to like a GameStop or whatever. You don't have to do any of that anymore. And I'm still paying you $60, yet your production of the game has gone down because you've gotten rid of a lot of that other stuff. Maybe not production of the game as in like the man hours it took to create the game, but to actually, again, put it on the disc and ship and blah, 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 blah. I think people are smart enough to notice that, wait a minute, why is this still $60? Shouldn't this have technically dropped the price? I think people are smart enough. Maybe I'm overthinking how, like I said, maybe I'm, what's the line from Men in Black? A person is smart, people are dumb, irrational animals. I don't know. Like I said, I go back and forth on whether or not that I've been going back and forth on this for like the last day and a half, thinking, man, am I nuts in thinking that that people would? I don't want to say that people would care, but that people would. That the concept for a digital-only console, that people would still think that they're getting ripped off at $60. I don't know. That's up to you. I don't know. What do you guys think on that? Do you think I'm nuts? Could you follow what the hell I was saying? Sometimes I get kind of rambly in the middle of this show, and I feel like I'm trying to think back on exactly how I got from point A to point B. To basically wrap everything up, I think that it's a better move in an optics. It's going to look better on your companies if you try and push that industry standard from being a $60 price to a $40 price. And I'm talking just for games. If next generation they switch to an all-digital platform, if you drop that price because I think people will see and realize that games are costing, that the game should technically cost less because it should technically cost less to produce because you don't have to spend the money on the discs and the shipping of the discs and all that. So all that moving forward. This is. Like I said, I don't really have an opinion. This is just kind of me throwing something out there, kind of food for thought, if you will. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, and if you've already hit the downvote button because you think I'm absolutely insane, some weeks, yeah, that's about right. I guess kind of sticking on the Microsoft train, one of my favorite games that dear God needs a sequel. Microsoft has, I think Microsoft has said they aren't interested in making a sequel, at least at the moment. I know that Sony can't do anything because the IP is owned by Microsoft, as far as I can tell, although the developer was Insomniac. Dear God, I want Sunset Overdrive 2, is basically what I'm saying. Let's get into the article, though. Article, Nick Santangelo, Sunset Overdrive officially coming to PC. The rumors, leaks, and rating board updates were all true. Sunset Overdrive is officially coming to PC tomorrow. Insomniac Games made the announcement on, or I guess this is, when did this article come out? On the 15th? So I guess it's already out. The rumors, leaks, and blah, blah, blah. Insomniac Games made the announcement on Twitter today, releasing a trailer confirming the previously Xbox One exclusive Sunset Overdrive is heading to Windows 10. It's been a long road for Insomniac to get to this point, with Sunset Overdrive originally releasing in 2014 as one of the Xbox One's tentpole exclusives, but talk of a PC port started more than 2 years ago. See, I think that might be something that hurt Sunset, that I think people didn't really give it a lot of credit because it was a launch title. It was bundled with the Xbox One. Honestly, I'd argue that Sunset Overdrive is one of the best games on the Xbox One. It's such a fun, it's got such great personality, just running around with the weapons and everything. I mean, it's definitely an Insomniac game because it really gives you that Ratchet and Clank vibe, but it's so fun. Actually, I did a Let's Play for it. Absolutely love the game. It's still one of my favorite Xbox One games this generation, hands down. In 2016, Insomniac said that it would love to bring Sunset Overdrive to PC, but admitted that it would need approval from publisher Microsoft. Last year, Insomniac CEO Ted Price indicated that he'd like to make a Sunset Overdrive 2, and I'm sure a lot of us would love to play it and bring that to multiple platforms, but he said his studio would need a publisher to make it happen. And, oh, really? I thought Microsoft owned it, so they own it. They just can't find a publisher. That's weird to me that nobody will publish that. I don't know. Maybe I'm overestimating how many people loved Sunset Overdrive, but just the word of mouth on this game has just people love it. I don't know. Then in May, Sunset Overdrive for PC was rated by the Korean Game Ratings Board before later also appearing in ESRB's website. Finally, just yesterday, Amazon and SteamDB appeared to out Sunset Overdrive's Friday release on PC for $20 US. Insomniac official announcement today didn't offer any price, but it confirmed the Friday release date. So it's already out on PC. If you haven't played it, I highly suggest it. It's a super fun game. Gameplay very similar to Ratchet and Clank. Great movement, just great concept and art and everything. It's entirely Insomniac. It's super fun. It's really dumb, but it's dumb in that best Insomniac kind of way. Actually, though, I'm sitting here thinking, I do remember when they said that they needed a publisher to make a sequel for Sunset Overdrive 2. And for some reason, to me, my brain read that as, or my brain has remembered that as Microsoft owns the game and won't publish a sequel. But yeah, I guess Sony it's weird to me that nobody wants to publish this game, because I feel like the general consensus is everybody loved it. I just don't think it made a lot of money in its initial release, and maybe it was because it was a launch game. It kind of hurt it that people were thinking it was just really gimmicky. But I mean, it's seriously though, it's a solid game. I heavily suggest it to anybody. If you haven't played it on the Xbox One or can't play it on Xbox One, definitely play Sunset Overdrive. It's super fun. All right, moving on to another game that was just announced, a Narcos-themed strategy game. It's been announced for 2019. Article JP Gemboriz, I have no idea how to pronounce that, over at Game Informer. A day before the next chapter, the cocaine-dusted, blood-moneyed Netflix original Narcos is revealed. Award-winning UK publisher Curve Digital has announced they and their sister company, Kuju Entertainment, will be developing a Narcos-themed strategy game for 2019. In Narcos: Rise of the Cartels, players will assume the role of Medellin of the Medellin Cartel, or DEA, in a, and I quote, brutal turn-based strategy game following the events of the show. Narcos: Rise of the Cartel is slated to release at the end of 2019 for Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Currently, it's unknown whether or not you'll be able to play as Pablo Escobar. See, I'm not sure what it's going to be that it's based off of a TV show. I think those kind of games are really hit and miss. Like based on existing property games are usually hit and miss. But I like the idea of a strategy game set in a DEA versus the cartels. I think both of those could have their own really interesting sort of campaigns. And I know people have kind of been slamming on Phantom Doctrine because I think what people have criticized the game for, they are right. It is very repetitive. There's not a lot of diverse mission types. There's not a lot of it's a lot of the same thing over and over and over again. But I really enjoy Phantom Doctrine personally. And just when I heard DEA versus cartel, I'm like, that's kind of what I was thinking. It's kind of like the plays like a CIA operative or the KGB. I think this could be really cool. Already its themes grabbed me. I'm gonna guess it's very XCOM-esque sort of combat. It's really grabbed me, and I'm interested to see more. So keep your eye out. Once more, this is, let's see if I can find the name, Narcos: Rise of the Cartel. All right, on to our final article. This one, again, this kind of like the last one, should be a short one. I just feel like really kind of to put a period at the end of the whole Telltale saga. Telltale Games delisted from Steam as studio begins liquidation process. Article, Chris Kerr of Gamasutra. A handful of Telltale titles have been removed from Steam with the thank you GOG, always sending me emails. A handful of Telltale Games titles have been removed from Steam, with the company currently in the process of liquidating its remaining assets. As reported by GameDaily.biz, various games and series including Jurassic Park, Tales of Monkey Island, and Back to the Future have all been delisted on Steam, although anybody who already owns them will retain access. Other popular releases like The Walking Dead, Batman the Telltale series, Game of Thrones, Tales from the Borderlands are still up for sale at the time of writing, but you probably shouldn't wait around if you plan on picking them up. It's been just over a month since Telltale made waves by announcing a majority studio closure on Twitter, with the studio laying off the bulk of its 250-strong workforce without warning or severance pay. Although the company kept on a skeleton crew to finish work on certain projects, it marked the end of an era for a studio that popularized narrative-driven episodic games by working with some of the biggest names in the entertainment industry. And I quote, "It's been an incredibly difficult year for Telltale as we worked to set the company on a new course. Unfortunately, we ran out of time trying to get there," end quote, said Telltale back in September. And I quote, "We released some of our best content this year and received a tremendous amount of positive feedback, but ultimately that did not translate into sales. With a heavy heart, we watch our friends leave today to spread our brand of storytelling across the games industry," end quote. I'm still mad that we're not getting the sequel to The Wolf Among Us, but I'll just sit and cry about that later. All in all, I'm still sad to see Telltale go. I've said this on multiple occasions. I love Telltale. I love their games, maybe not the way their company was run, but I really love Telltale games. I mean, some of the ones that are still available. I mean, the Walking Dead series are great. I'm actually enjoying the final season. I thought the last episode or chapter, the second episode, I enjoyed it. I'm interested to see where it's going to go, especially now that Skybound has a hold of it. And I'm actually kind of hoping that these other games are picked up, kind of like The Walking Dead was by Skybound. That maybe the Telltale series from Batman is continued in a different studio, maybe called a little something different, but they continue that story. That the Game of Thrones story is continued. That, hell, do another Tales from the Borderlands. I freaking loved Tales from the Borderlands. It's so good. I do hope like I said, I hope some of these are picked up by other studios, or that some other studios try similar games to Telltale. Because I've always explained it to people, because I have a lot of people who kind of look at me, because I have some people who look at me and, they kind of look at me and go, well, they say, I love action games. I love like big titles. They're like, well, why would you like these like little basically visual novel games? And I look at them and I say, well, it's mostly because I consider it a palate cleanser. It's really nice to kind of sit and play and experience these games in just a different way from other games. You know, it's just they're so different, and it's all story focused, and I love the art styles and everything, and it's just kind of nice to sit and watch the story. And it's like playing Life is Strange. I'm playing The Council right now, although I think episode 4 of The Council came out, and I've just not gotten around to playing it. That's for a different day. And I mean, well, I guess that's a good transition, because I mean, studios like Don't Nod and who is doing The Council? It's Big Bad Wolf, I think, was the name of the studio. I think other studios are picking up this sort of narrative adventure, sort of storytelling technique, and doing their own things with it. Because I think like The Council with their RPG mechanics is really good. I just think the people who are creating the puzzles are just sadistic assholes. But that's a totally different conversation. So, all right, guys. Well, that's all I've got for you this week. As I always, or as I said at the beginning of the episode, if you guys have any suggestions for news stories, please send them to me throughout the week on Twitter. The link is in the description. You can also send them to me over Facebook, minds.com, anything you want. I'm happy to talk about anything that you guys want me to give my takes on. Other than that, like I said, there might not be a show next week. All comes down to the news and my schedule. And other than that, thanks for watching. Links and timestamps are down in the description. I should probably talk about the timestamps earlier in the show, but I always forget. So thanks for watching, guys. Facebook, Twitter, the website, minds.com. Links, all that stuff is in the description. Like, comment, you're not already. Please subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more next time. But until then, my name's AJ Gelds. This is the Untitled Gaming Channel. I'm out.